coaches, thanks for joining me for another World Cup breakdown. Nice and easy one today. How do you stop one of the best players in the world at the moment, who is in great form? Mbappé, France versus England. Let's take a look at some things England might do to try and stop one of the best players in the world at the moment. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe below. And if you're a coach and you're looking for some exercises around decision making, awareness, we've got our new scanning book, 20 scanning exercises on the link below. Okay, Mbappé versus England. Let's go. All right, we're going to start off with some quotes to get an appreciation and an idea of just how difficult this job is, stopping Mbappé. So Matty Cash played against him for Poland recently, had these words to say: different level. I play in the Premier League week in, week out against top-class wingers, but he's easily going to be the best player in the world. Speed, movement, and his finishing, he's got everything. He put one in the top corner, one in the left, and one in the right corner. And Matty also had a great quote, I thought this was brilliant, about just what makes him so difficult. So, like a true professional, Matty watched his clips, prepared for it. But this here I thought was brilliant. When he gets the ball, stops, and then moves, he's the quickest thing I've ever seen. So again, in the context of Premier League player, international footballer, you're then taking that to another level. Thierry Henry recently did a little bit in the studio with Jamie Carragher and Micah Richards about literally standing still with the ball and provoking a defensive action. And Henry was trying to say that when he provokes the action and a defender steps or looks as if he's going to step, Mbappe's gone, and his ability to accelerate away and go from standing still to a full sprint is on a different level. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Again, something Matty Cash explained was then you don't know how to play against him. If you get tight, he's going to go and spin you and get in behind. If you stand off him, then all of a sudden he's going to use that space to create in front of you. So very, very difficult to stop in so many ways. So rather than look at it from a 1v1 situation or how can you prevent him from doing this or prevent him from doing that, we're going to look at it from more of a tactical situation. So what if you're Gareth Southgate, or what if you're a coach and you're trying to get a tactical system that can take care of one of the best players in the world and minimise their impact in it? England assistant coach Steve Holland has said something along similar lines. Yes, he is one of the top players on the planet. Yes, you need to give him special attention. But this last sentence I think is really good. We need to look at trying to avoid leaving ourselves in situations where he is as devastating as we've all seen. So how do you minimize situations that Mbappé is outstanding and world-class in? That's what we're going to look at today. So I used my day off of World Cup days to look at basically what worked with Mbappé before. So I went to a game that Denmark beat France in last September and looked at what Denmark did to minimize the impact of Mbappé. A couple of things jumped out. First of all, surprisingly, they pressed really aggressively. So here's Mbappé on the left side as a forward, and the front three pressed for Denmark and even squeezed the fullback high and left the centre-back with 1v1 coverage. Now, obviously, they had a supporting centre-back alongside him. But what Denmark tried to do was cut off the supply and make sure that they couldn't find him initially. So they pressed really, really high. That impacted the service. That impacted the number of times he could receive the ball in the build-up. Does that minimise his impact? Probably. Does that mean that he might change and go looking for the ball into other areas? Maybe. But I thought that it was interesting that even though you're giving up space in behind you with a press, they're still doing that. They still wanted to make sure that France couldn't find Mbappé early in the build. Another thing that Denmark did was when they weren't pressing and in the flow of the game, they dropped into a lower block. Now, this sounds very straightforward, but I actually think it's very smart. Drop into a 4-1-4-1, and then when Mbappé receives the ball in between the lines, you can then get pressure on both sides. So you can close in there, reduce the space, force him backwards, and make sure no defender is isolated against it, which again reduces those moments that he is most effective. A continuation of that was then to drop another 5 yards until the 18, almost in a completely low block, but leave the wide space open for the advancing fullback and almost invite that fullback into that wide space. Mbappé then, that space in between the lines is significantly reduced. Now you completely eliminate that, which means with a fullback high, Mbappé will sometimes drop lower, and now he's dropping underneath 2 lines of pressure, which again means that there's not a lot on. You've moved your block across, so France will probably look on the weak side where there is a bit more space. Again, pushes you back, but invites France to go on the other side and takes away that option of Mbappé hurting you in behind. So those are some options in defensive organisation with the press and the blocks that you can do potentially to minimise the impact of Mbappé. Now let's take a look at how you could potentially reduce his impact in transitional moments. So we know that in counter-attacks and when overloads, or even in 1v1s or 2v2s, in those moments in the game is stretched, he's unbelievable. How then, to use Steve Holland's words, how then could you minimise those moments in transition that he's a threat? So one thing Denmark did was they built primarily down the right-hand side. So defending and pressing maybe isn't his greatest strength. So whenever you shift to number 9 and you can move on the right side, this does 2 things. You might have a bit more space to advance your fullback in the build because Mbappé doesn't maybe embrace the defensive side of the game. But what that also does is whenever possession is lost, you have a structure underneath, meaning that there's not a lot of space for Mbappé to then break out. Whereas if you lost it on the other side, they can switch the ball quickly. He's more likely to be isolated. So if you lose the ball on Mbappe's side of the build, you then have structure underneath it to minimise those transitional moments. Of course, it's very difficult and almost impossible for you to play the whole game down one side. So there are going to be moments that England build down the left and Mbappé is going to be free on the other side in transition. Something that Portugal did in the UEFA games last year was that whenever the ball was played in transition to Mbappé and it was 1v1 in the wide areas, the centre-back on that side overextended with shifting across and basically cut off any space. So you created a 1v2 for Mbappé. Now you're going to leave space, but you can drop in perhaps your holding midfielder into that space. You create a back 5 in transitional moments just to slow down Mbappé and create cover for that 1v1 opportunity. Maybe not beneficial for a full game, but definitely in those transitional moments, it does give you more support. So there you go, just some ideas around in possession moments, out of possession moments, in transition moments to potentially minimise the impact of Mbappé. It's a really difficult job that Gareth Southgate has to try and move his system to do that. That's why World Cups are so difficult to win, I'm sure, is that when you get to the knockout stages, quarterfinals, semi-finals, the talent that you're up against is unbelievable. When you stop something, you might also be taking away some of your attacking or some other area that you were really strong in. So there's always a give and take with those systems, and how you decide to do it may depend upon individuals as well. Really interesting. I can't wait for the match. I'm really looking forward to it. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe below. If I missed something, please also put it in the comments below and I'll definitely take a look. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.